Imagine you're the biggest star in Hollywood. Your face is on every billboard, your name lights up every marquee, and audiences around the globe adore you. That was the reality for one man, Errol Flynn. In the 1930s and 40s, he was the epitome of masculine charm and swashbuckling adventure. With hits like Captain Blood and The Adventures of Robin Hood, Flynn wasn't just an actor. He was a legend. But what the cameras didn't show was a darker, spiraling life that would eventually consume him. Born in 1909 in Tasmania, Flynn was always rebellious. He had been expelled from multiple schools, fired from countless jobs, and arrested more times than he could count before he ever stepped foot in Hollywood. Yet that reckless energy became part of his allure. On screen, he was dashing and daring. Off screen, he was wild and untamed. The studio loved it at first. It was good for publicity. But behind closed doors, Flynn's lifestyle was already starting to unravel. He drank heavily, often starting before noon. He hosted infamous parties where no rules applied, and consequences were left outside. Drugs, women, and non-stop chaos became routine. And while many stars of his era lived fast, few burned as brightly or destructively as Flynn. By 1942, his reputation had begun to catch up with him. He was charged with statutory rape, and although he was acquitted, the trial exposed the sordid details of his private life to the world. The phrase, "in like Flynn," became a pop culture reference, not for his charm, but for his scandal. After the trial, his star power dimmed. Studios hesitated to cast him in major roles. He was aging rapidly, his once youthful face now puffy and lined from years of abuse. Still, Flynn kept pushing forward, even as his finances crumbled. He owed enormous sums in back taxes, had 3 divorces under his belt, and was constantly in debt. By the time he moved to Europe in the 1950s, he was a shadow of his former self. He tried to reinvent himself as a serious writer and documentary filmmaker, but Hollywood had already moved on. Audiences no longer saw the fearless Robin Hood. They saw a broken man grasping at faded glory. In 1959, at the age of 50, Errol Flynn died of a heart attack. But the autopsy revealed the body of a man much older, his heart, liver, and kidneys ravaged from years of alcohol and drug abuse. The golden boy of Hollywood had become a cautionary tale. He once had it all: fame, wealth, beauty. But he lost everything to addiction, arrogance, and the inability to escape his own myth. Flynn's story reminds us that fame can be a double-edged sword. It lifts you high, but if you fall, the crash can be devastating. And as tragic as this sounds, the next story is even more heartbreaking, because it involves a star who was loved by children across the globe, only to lose everything in the most public and humiliating way imaginable. Imagine standing at the height of American television fame in the 1970s. Your face is on every screen, your name whispered with admiration, and your charm unmatched. That was the reality for Freddy Prince, the star of the beloved sitcom Chico and the Man. At just 20 years old, he had captured the hearts of millions with his quick wit and signature grin. He was hailed as the next big thing in comedy, often compared to Richard Pryor and George Carlin for his timing and delivery. But behind that glowing success was a storm no one saw coming. Freddy Prince came from humble beginnings. Born in 1954 in New York City to a Puerto Rican mother and German father, he grew up battling insecurity and identity issues. He found refuge in stand-up comedy, crafting characters and routines that brought audiences to their knees with laughter. At only 19, he made his national debut on The Tonight Show, and by 20 he had his own show. But fame, as it so often does, came with a dark side. Freddy struggled with depression, anxiety, and an increasing dependence on Quaaludes and cocaine. Despite his outward success, those closest to him knew he was battling demons far bigger than any script or stage. He married Catherine Cochran in 1975, and they had a son, future actor Freddy Prince Jr. But the marriage quickly fell apart. The pressures of maintaining his career, family, and public persona became too much. In 1977, just a few months after his 22nd birthday, Freddy locked himself in his apartment with a gun. He called friends, made cryptic goodbyes, and then pulled the trigger. His death sent shockwaves across the industry. A star who had everything: talent, youth, a promising future, gone in an instant. The most haunting part? He left behind a legacy that burned so brightly for such a short time. that many today forget how massive his impact truly was. His son, Freddie Prince Jr., would later speak of his father with a mixture of pride and sorrow, trying to reconcile the comedic genius with the pain that consumed him. Freddie Prince's story is a tragic reminder that success on the outside doesn't always mean peace within. It's a story of how fame can be blinding, both to those who chase it and those who admire from afar. And it's not the only one. Because up next is a woman whose name once glittered in the Hollywood lights, but who fell so hard, so fast, that her story was nearly erased from history altogether. A true tale of glamour, downfall, and the price of playing the fame game. Get ready. Because this next one might be the most haunting yet. They say the higher you climb, the harder you fall. And no one in Hollywood proved that more than Fatty Arbuckle. In the early days of silent film, Arbuckle was a giant, literally and figuratively. With a weight tipping over 300 pounds and a charisma that made audiences roar with laughter, he was the original king of slapstick. His films were box office gold, and he was one of the highest-paid actors in the world. By 1921, Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle had signed a $1 million contract with Paramount Pictures, unheard of at the time. He lived large, partied hard, and mingled with the crème de la crème of the Hollywood elite. But everything changed over the course of one long weekend. That Labor Day, Arbuckle rented 3 rooms at the luxurious St. Francis Hotel in San Francisco and invited a handful of friends for a booze-filled bash. Prohibition may have been the law, but Hollywood always found a way around it. Among the guests was a young aspiring actress named Virginia Rappe. She was fashionable, ambitious, and looking for her big break. No one could have predicted that she would end up dead within days. The official story, at first, was vague. Virginia had fallen ill during the party. She was in severe pain, vomiting and writhing on the bed. After a few days, she was taken to the hospital and died. Her friends claimed that Arbuckle had locked the door with her, assaulted her, and crushed her with his massive weight. Rumors spread like wildfire. The media called Arbuckle a monster. Headlines screamed about a sex-crazed actor crushing a young starlet. He was arrested and charged with manslaughter. His films were pulled from theaters. Studios abandoned him. Overnight, Fatty Arbuckle went from the most beloved comedian in America to a symbol of Hollywood's darkest excesses. The truth, however, is far murkier. Arbuckle insisted he was innocent. Multiple witnesses testified that nothing inappropriate had happened. 3 separate trials were held. The first 2 ended in mistrials. The third finally acquitted him, with the jury even issuing a written apology. But by then, the damage was done. Arbuckle was a pariah. The media had already crucified him. His career was in ruins. He tried directing under a pseudonym, but the magic was gone. No one wanted to see Fatty Arbuckle on screen again. The scandal had redefined him forever. What makes this story especially tragic is not just the fall from grace, but how little the public cared about the truth once the headlines had moved on. Arbuckle died in his sleep in 1933, just hours after signing a new contract to make a comeback. It was too little, too late. His legacy, once golden, was buried under scandal, suspicion, and tabloid frenzy. And yet his story is a chilling reminder of how fame can be snatched away in an instant, how one rumor can rewrite a life, and how the court of public opinion can be far crueler than any courtroom. Arbuckle had it all: money, fame, adoration, and then, in the blink of an eye, it was gone. Like so many before him, and so many after, he learned that in Hollywood, the spotlight can burn just as easily as it dazzles. And sometimes, it leaves nothing behind but shadows.